You want to get into it?
I need to get in better shape. Probably just went home and like put it all over my bed and then rolled in it.
Yeah, absolutely. I've like never heard of this thing in my entire life.
Could have been something.
Yeah.
Like everything.
This is amazing. I can get anything in this mall.
And they opened up their Gucci purses.
Fuck that. We're going to get it done.
We were at dinner last night. And so right now we're banking a bunch of episodes because I'm going away for probably around 2 weeks to Thailand. And so yeah, we're banking a bunch of episodes. We were a little bit light on like business stories or like little bits of research. And we kind of had this idea that was, okay, like both of us have done like a lot of stupid shit, a lot of stuff that could have potentially worked out. And the things that have like led up to like where we're at right now and what we're working on all kind of contributed. So this is going to be kind of like the business history episode on like things we've tried, things we've failed. I mean, there's many successes, I think, in each one of these. And so yeah, we're going to get into it in terms of like what we tried first in terms of like making money and go through the kind of like stories, things that worked, things that didn't over like the last, I don't know, I've been at this for like 27 now. So 10 years. Yeah, I guess I'm pretty much 10 years. So yeah, we're just going to rapid fire through them.
Let's do it. Yeah, and you want to go into, I actually like that idea when you were saying it of like one thing maybe that you like learned uniquely from that business versus the others.
Yeah. Okay. We'll use that as a format and I'm sure we'll get off the rails as well. Okay. You go first. What was the first thing that you did to like make money or like, I'm going to start a business?
Okay. Yeah. So I'll skip the kind of like hustler, like school locker room stuff.
Yeah.
The first real business I tried to create was called Restaurant Solutions. 15 years old, in high school. And the idea was iPad ordering at restaurants. And I was like, you know, I guess a bit young and I didn't understand like the experience of a restaurant. And I was like, why are there people taking orders? You can just do this like from an iPad and order it. And so I went on Upwork. That's when I first found Upwork.
How old were you at this point?
I think I was 14 or 15.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so let me get someone to build this app. Like, how much could it cost? And, you know, I went on Upwork. I found a guy, I think he was in Ottawa, and he was like, hey, you know, I can build this for like $6,000 or something. And I was like, whoa, like I don't have $6,000.
It's more money than I've ever heard in my life.
So, but Christmas was coming out, and the first step of that was $1,000 for like the UX design and just like the wireframes.
Okay.
So I wanted to do it with my brother to fund half that, so $500 each. And I didn't have the $500. So for Christmas, I asked my dad for $500 towards like this idea. And so we get these wireframes and the guy starts working on it. And I show my dad and I'm like, do you want to like invest for the rest of the $6,000? And he's like, I'll tell you what, if you can get $1,000 based on these wireframes you've made, if you can get $1,000 from someone else, I'll put up the other $4,000. Like 1,000's already been paid, and I'll put up the other $4,000 and you'll build it. All you have to do is go out and get like $1,000 for some wireframes. So I put on a suit. I couldn't drive. My brother drove. We're both wearing suits. He's 5 years older than me. So he's 19 or 20. And so we go to these different restaurants and right away they're not interested. But we did kind of find the niche where people were interested, which was like all you can eat Japanese restaurants, where like they still do.
It's like the only place you get iPad.
Yeah.
Like
and it actually, it existed a bit still at the time. And so we noticed that like people don't go to all you can eat restaurants for the service. And so we show up at these different places in suits and we're like, we can't just say like, oh, I have this wireframe. I'm like trying to get it built on Upwork. Can you give us $1,000 deposit? So what we said was like, hey, we're from the US. There's a company called Restaurant Solutions in the US. We're making the Canadian version of it, but they want to rebuild it because, you know, the Canadian version is totally different for whatever reason in the US. And so we're looking to get deposits for this app. You can order it people can order from the iPads and this and that. And like, they were asking questions. Like, I remember one guy asked us like, oh, like, will it connect to whatever, like some software that they use in the back of the house for like when orders come up to like bring the chit out of like what the kitchen makes? yeah, absolutely. I've like never heard of this thing in my entire life.
Oh, it's just an API.
Yeah. I think we got one deposit for $500 and we couldn't get the second one. And we went to so many restaurants just door to door, like, hey, can I speak to the manager? And like, no, come back, handing out business cards. And then I don't know what I was just eventually like, yeah, maybe not.
Maybe this isn't it.
Actually, I got in a fight.
Business.
I got in a fight with my brother. That's what it was. We got in like an argument, and I was like, "Screw this guy. I'll do it alone." And then it fell apart.
Okay, so what's the one thing that you learned from?
I think I just learned I think there's two things. One, the idea of like getting deposits before you have the thing built is doable, and it's the best way to prove out something before you spend all the money building it. Because even if you're so confident in your head, it means nothing until someone pays you. So that was the first thing. The other was, I think, just like it seems so easy in your head. Yeah, just like knock on doors and like try to speak to the manager of the restaurant. But then when you're actually in that position, it's like, no, it's actually kind of hard. Like to get one conversation requires you to go to probably like 30 restaurants. And so like it seems obvious now, but at the time, like that was like a weird thing to understand.
Right. Cool. I think it's like a crazy, like if you were to reverse engineer even, I think your dad taught you like a pretty important lesson as well. And like the way that he like structured that.
Yeah.
And like, it's kind of funny thinking about your progression in like your first like real job was like in sales. And like, it would be like kind of ridiculous to not assume that like that could have like planted a seed at like a young person's brain. Like, oh, I got like a little bit of success in this, or like, this is what I know. And it's kind of like potentially what even like led into, you know, being gravitated to sales
100%.
Like, and then obviously that like cascades down into Wizza. What I've always been like kind of interested and like jealous of you of, like, I feel like you always gravitate towards product businesses, especially like, you know, it was like a product, or for me, I started doing like service-based businesses. And so for like my first business was a business called Vanquish Media, and it had like a million different lives. It was like over like 5-year period. Like I started it when I was like 16 or 17 because I had like the short story is I had like shattered one of my legs at the time, BMX biking. And so I had like a full summer at 15 years old of like, I couldn't be vertical, so I couldn't even use crutches. I had to be in a wheelchair. And so I had like a whole summer where like I couldn't go with my friends or anything. And I stumbled upon like YouTube tutorials about like the Adobe Creative Suite and like started pirating software. And I just became obsessed with these tools that could do a thing. And then I was like, I'm going to try to sell the stuff that I can make. So it was like Flash animations on Upwork to, like I designed like a full like print book about there's this like character called Tonto, which was like a old school, like there's a guy in my town that was obsessed with this character. And so I always did these like service-based businesses, like freelance type businesses, and had like the most insane jobs. And the one that I wrote down here was when I had first gotten into university. I was like kind of like scraping by, and I'd never had a job. Like till this day, I've never really had a job ever. I just been like freelancing, whether it be like graphic design or like video or like building websites. And I went into a Good Life Fitness, which is like our like gym. It's like our version of Lifetime in Canada. And the guy that was like signing me up, he's like, "Oh, what do you do?" And like young entrepreneur, it's like every moment is an opportunity to pitch. And I was just like, "Oh, like I build apps." Like at the time, I was incredibly obsessed with mobile apps. And one of my friends from my high school, we were building a bunch of apps. We built like a King's Cup app. We built like a bunch of drinking game apps that actually like did pretty well. They made like a couple $100 a month. But I wasn't really part of that. I kind of just designed the product and he built them. And I wasn't really part of it outside of like designing the product. But I was obsessed with apps. I had this like, I was watching all of these. It was at the time when there's all these like YouTube stories about these kids that like made millions of dollars, built these massive companies like building an app. And so I was obsessed with this. Like I build apps. And this guy was like, and this is like this jacked guy at this gym, like personal trainer signing me up. He goes, "Oh, like my boss is looking for an app." I'm like, "Oh, like a Good Life?" Like fucking right. Like time to cash in. And he's like, "No, like I have like a part-time job." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." And he's like, "Let's just set up a meeting." Doesn't tell me what it is, whatever. And so I end up meeting these guys at a Starbucks. It was at Young in College, the Starbucks at Young in College. And these two guys roll up and he looks completely different. Like he's like dressed in like all Gucci and like they have like these crossbody bags and they sit down and like, "We're looking for an app." I'm like, "Okay, what's the app?" It turns out these guys were male strippers. And they like were traveling male strippers across all of Canada. And the reason why they wanted an app is because they couldn't advertise on like Facebook or like any of these platforms that you could advertise. And so they're like, we want a way of collecting phone numbers and emails, and then a way to like send push notifications and emails for like when we're going to be in the city. So like these like middle-aged women would go to these strip shows in like Niagara Falls, and like they would have like QR codes that would then open the app, they put in their email, and then they get updated with like when they're going to be in their city next and all this kind of stuff. And they're like, well, how much is it going to be? And I don't remember that. I remember it was less than 10 grand. Cause at that time I had still never had a project. I remember my first 10K project. This wasn't it. So it was somewhere between 5 and 10. And they're like, so how does it work? And I was like, oh, I usually take 50% up front and then 50% when the project's done. And then I remember them being like, okay, cool. Let's like do this. They take out their Gucci purses and they just like start counting out whatever it was, like $3,000 or $4,000 in cash. And I'm like sitting in Starbucks, like probably the most like cash I'd ever seen other than like buying something or something. And then I was just like, okay, like coming from a place where, you know, people were making me like sign contracts for like $250 like logo jobs for their wedding design business that I was doing. I was just like, okay, sweet. And so we hit the ground running with that project. And it was actually like, there's a lot of like funny moments throughout that. Like we had like a commenting feature where we could see like all of these women creating accounts and then like being like, you guys are so good tonight. I can't wait for you guys to come back to Whitby and like shit like that. And it was just like, it was crazy. But yeah, that business had many lives. It was kind of like the catch-all, whatever I could find in terms of jobs. I like took it and I like learned I learned everything through that, which was like an incredible experience. And it ended up being a lot more focused around like motion design near the end. And we were doing a lot of like After Effects work and things like that. But yeah, that was like up until the point when I almost like, yeah, it was like probably right until I dropped out. And then I started taking on other freelance projects, some apps, some motion design. And that's kind of like what got me into like software and motion design and stuff like that.
So the male stripper app, does it still exist or like?
It actually might. I'd have to look it up. I doubt it runs on whatever.
It was an app store app?
It was an app store app.
What was it called?
MMR Toronto, which stood for like Magic Male Review, which was like their strip team, which I'm sure is like still around. And like, it was just like, yeah, a bunch of guys that worked at a Good Life or like their personal trainers at Good Life. And then at night they would strip and like make their money that way. And, so yeah, that was cool. And I think what was crazy about that business as well is I got to meet, when you're like the lowest cost agency for a job, you get to meet a bunch of like failed entrepreneurs. And so even through osmosis, I think I also learned like a lot of like what not to do.
Right.
Like you just get these gut reactions of people holding on to an idea. They're like, oh yeah, I've been working on this for like 7 years. And it's just like, okay, I don't want to be that.
Yeah.
You know? And then you get like little glimpses of, you know, semi-successful things. Like there was a period of time where we were doing a bunch of packaging design for like hair curlers for this like company and things like that. There's so many little like stories throughout running this business, if you even would call it a business instead of freelancing, that yeah, it's crazy to think like if I didn't have that, like if I had just went a traditional route or decided that I was going to pay rent through like traditional means, I would have like learned so much less.
Right.
And so I'm like incredibly grateful for all of that time. And yeah, it definitely like led into me launching like everything that kind of came after that. But yeah.
Did you wash your hands after you got that cash? Because I feel like it was on their balls.
I might have washed my hands. Who knows? I probably just went home and like put it all over my bed and rolled in it. I made $3,000 or something. At the time, I was like living in this like horrible apartment. It was like $600 a month or something. Yeah, that was like, again, wouldn't even consider that like one business, but that was like just a myriad of time in which I was like taking on anything I get. Right.
Dude, this kind of reminds me of this quote I've always really liked. I just looked it up as you were talking. When you said like how you kind of learned from like what not to do. It goes, I've learned silence from the talkative, toleration from the intolerant, and kindness from the unkind. Yet strange, I'm ungrateful to all these teachers. I feel like you learn so much more from like seeing something you don't want to be than like anything else. Cause it's like that just sticks in your head so much more of like, oh, I don't want to be that. Or like, I can see how this negative quality led to like this downfall in someone. So So yeah, anyway, that just reminded me of that quote I like.
All right, nice little golden nugget.
Yeah. I'm
Stevie quotes.
I'm obsessed with quotes. I always thought like in my home office, I forgot that I wanted to do this, so I should do this. I wanted just the walls to be filled with like all my favorite quotes, like either like a chalk walls, like all written, or like actually like put.
It'd be
up
cool
on
to
there.
even just like put them all in a spreadsheet, give them to like a designer, like design, and then design like a wallpaper to just like go up, or like or something like that.
Yeah.
Like edge to edge would be kind of cool.
Yeah, like
what'd you
quotes.
do after Restaurant Solutions?
So as I keep coming up with new ones I did. So another one that's funny is we did an all ages event called Pulse. I did it with a few of my friends. When you said you met someone in Starbucks, this reminded me of that because we kind of had the same experience. So we create this event. We call it Prime. I throw up like a Squarespace site. It's called like primeallages.com. And
Wow, if you would have brought Prime.com,
I know
you could have milked Logan Paul for $1 million.
I should have. But anyway, so we decided to do this all ages event. All ages events, there's no revenue from like alcohol sales, obviously. So it's just like the $20 cover charge. So you got to get a lot of people. And on top of that, you get like promoters, which are just like other high school kids in other schools to like sell tickets. And you give them, if they sell before X date, we're going to give you $10 a ticket. After this date, you're going to get $5 a ticket. And at the door, you'll get like $2 a ticket, something like that. So incentivizing them to like sell the tickets out earlier. So we decided to put on this event. We rent out a space called like the Opera House. It was, I think, like $1,500, and we were like, oh, should we do this? Whatever. So anyway, we get a bunch of tickets made. We find out that there's another guy in the city planning an all ages event the next night, also at the Opera House, called Pulse. And so we reach out to him on like Facebook or whatever at the time, and we're like, hey, like maybe we can like join forces. So we meet at the Starbucks at Young and Lawrence, and we sit down and we're just like, okay, whatever. And so we agree that like our date's better. We agree his name is better, and we kind of like, combine, and we become Pulse on this date. We announce the big merger on Facebook, and we like crushed it at the time. We sold, I think we sold like $8,000 of tickets, and it was like $1,500 of cost. And the tickets were $20. I think at the door it was $30 if you pay at the door. And so we get there, and like we're having like an amazing time because like we're having this big party at this place, and like we're putting it on. Like it felt like amazing. We were like backstage. We had like a DJ booked that was like doing that. So we were just there, and like we had like snuck our own drinks in. So we were like just like backstage drinking. And then I had gotten two of my friends to look after like the front door. I was like, I don't think many people are going to come like pay cash, but like if they do, like just stand at this cash, it's $30. Here's like some loose change, whatever. Go to the front, maybe an hour in. My friend Ryan goes to me, dude, thank God you're here. We have no more space to put the cash. And I'm like, I thought it was a joke. I was like, no way. He's like, dude, he like pulls open this little like dinky cash register thing we have, and it is exploding with cash. He's like, can you get a bag? And I'm like, yeah, 1 second. I step outside. The street is full. Like, there are taxis, there's police officers. Like, it is like insane. And I'm like, oh my God, that was like the coolest moment. Like,
that seems really
just seeing that. And so I'm like, okay. So I go and like get my backpack that I had like brought my like cold shots in, and I like bring it, and we're just like stuffing it all into like this bag. And I'm like, oh my God, people are actually like paying at the door. And the lady's like, this place is full. Like, she was just like, more people can't get in. Like, people are drunk. Like, people are getting kicked out. Like, it's hectic. And the backstage, like, it's just like a nice, like, fun time. Anyway, the event ends. We go back. So we got like $8,000. We got like another like $9,000 in cash. But it was all like small bills, and so like whatever. And like we just cashed. Me and my friends like went back to my house after, and they like slept over, and we just like counted the money, and we're like, this is insane.
That's wild.
And so we tried to do it again. We did this in grade 12 when we were in first year university. We tried to do it, and obviously just being out of high school,
Right.
it's weird, and like we didn't have like friends in high
The
school.
demand goes down.
Yeah,
as well,
you
know?
can't
Like,
you can't do it the same. But
Yeah.
that was a legendary night. So
so
yeah.
how much do you think you netted at the end of it?
So the problem was we were 3 guys
Right.
that were doing it, and then when we split it with this guy, like he was 50%.
Right.
So
you
we were
three-
each like
you were a third of
17%. Yeah.
50. Got it.
And then on top of that, he did like tons of random expenses. I remember we were so pissed, but he paid an extra $500 for like, we had our friend DJ who was actually like a good DJ, but he wanted the DJ from like Kiss 92.5. So he like got him for like $500, and we were like, we don't need this.
Need that, yeah.
And then he got like business insurance for like $900 and like just a bunch of extra
Did you
costs.
even have like a legitimate business entity at that time?
No,
Like, what were we
like,
putting the insurance on?
I don't know. He was like, in case someone like some kid comes too drunk and like
Right.
dies or something. But anyway, so
That's
I
like a
think we
cool
made like $3,000
Part
each.
like I didn't grow up in like a big city, so like this would never have happened. But like that's cool part of like being in a big, like you actually, even if you were like young, you kind of do have like access to like a large market.
Yeah,
which is, like,
yeah.
pretty cool. It's a pretty cool thing.
Yeah,
Um,
it was fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, one learning from that: don't go into business when you don't know. To be honest, he did sell a lot of tickets, but like,
right.
yeah,
And then not too many partners.
not too many partners. Yeah, that's true.
So like the door guy had a third as well. Like it was like
No,
everybody
that
involved.
door guy was just like a friend.
Okay, got
It was actually Jake and our other buddy
Okay,
Ryan.
that's funny. So yeah, so my next one after Vanquish Media was like it was actually a spin-off of like a service I was doing for Vanquish Media. So I had my dad's like a teacher, and so he had like made a connection with like they were trying to get like a video done for what parents should do for snow days. So like when snow days happen, depending on what school district, it all changes. And like apparently it's actually like a big issue. I mean, as big of an issue as it could be for like a school board or something, which is
Okay.
like all small issues, but they feel like they're big issues. And so they were trying to get a video done, and I was like, yeah, I can do something. And so we started doing these animated videos. And this is like one of the first like animated videos I started doing. And it was just the protocol of like that year, what's going to happen on snow days, what happens with the buses. If it's a half snow day, what happens? It's just like the protocol. And they're like, we send this in a document, no one's going to, whatever, they want to do a video. And so I did the first one, and I think I did it for like $5,000 or something like that. And instantly, the moment that they start putting out that video, I have like 4 inbound emails from other school boards. And so there's like 4 school boards in Brantford. There's like 6 school boards in Hamilton. There's like that many. And so I got 4, and then I'm like, oh my God, like whatever. And what's crazy is like all of these school boards have like a 10% difference in what their protocol is. And so they need a change to the video. And so I'm like thinking through, and I was watching some YouTube video about licensing at the time. And I would have never thought about this if I didn't just like watch a bunch of like YouTube business like case studies. And I'm watching this guy about licensing, and I can't remember what video it was or what he was licensing, but he had pretty much been like, we had this asset, and like there was like small changes, and it was the perfect video. I could watch at the perfect time when these emails were coming in. And I was like, I'm going to do a licensing model. And so, because like everybody would preamble the email with like, we only need
This changed.
And I was just like, oh, and so, but then also I did like, I need to like solidify this. I could just like see the opportunity. And so I was just like, I'm going to spin up a whole new website, a whole new branding for all of this. And I called it EDU Story. And so the whole idea was like, and I could see like the vision longer. It's just like, it's going to be animated videos for like, even if they want to start doing online classes for like all of that kind of material. Right. And what's crazy is that we ended up doing a bunch of stuff for like hospitals and everything like that after it. But all of that wasn't as good as like this licensing deal. Like this was like the milkiest opportunity of all time. And what's crazy is like I even got emails. Someone was messaging me on Facebook from like some Haldeman school board being like, hey, fill up something like your old email, zach@edustory.ca is bouncing. Like we need this video. And like I still want to do it because it's like literally like $5,000.
Like you recently got this message?
Dude, literally like because it's this time of year. Every year I get these emails.
Wow.
But there was like a 3-year period where I was doing this. But the first year was like the best. Because once they had the video, there's like that's just their protocol. And like, they don't change it. And so anyway, I spin up this website. I make all of these. I make a beautiful website. It's the first time I ever used Webflow, which like led to a whole other stuff like down the road. And So what I started doing was like, it's a licensing model. It's 7,500, which is like more than I charged for the original video.
Right.
And I'm like, it's 7,500. And I would send them a frame.io link and they would send messages of what they want changed. And like some of them would literally just be like 2 text blocks that needed to be changed.
God.
It would take me 32 minutes plus the rendering time in After Effects. And so I think it was the first time I ever made $100,000 in a month, was doing
That many, eh?
Yeah, I did.
Wow.
I did like 8 or 9 of these. And there was like another one, they wanted one for, there was another thing that would happen at schools that wasn't snow days. I can't remember what it was, but there was a reason why
PA
kids
day?
would go home. There's a reason why kids would go home on a day or something.
Okay.
I can't remember what it was, but I did a bunch of these and I was just like, wow, that was amazing. But the thing is like instantly once that seasonality dries up,
Right,
all of
it's
it dries up. But what's cool is like the next year I probably made like another like 40 or 50 grand. And then I made like 20 grand. And then like, I still am like, fuck, like it could be a couple hours of my time. I can make like 7 or 8 grand. Like
Yeah.
just do this. And I like dig up the old After Effects files from like Adobe After Effects CS6 or whatever. But that was like a fun one. And then we actually ended up, as it started going and I started like hiring other like animators and like being good at animation. We started doing a lot of stuff for like hospitals. And so we did like big video series for, I can't remember the name of the hospital. It was like a private mental health hospital. So we did like, if you have a family member with like bipolar, we did this. And like, those were all like $13,000-$14,000 a video. I just like did them all myself. And, but I still just like, yeah, that licensing idea was just like the best thing. Cause I was happy to do the first video for $5,000. And then it was just like, okay, 7,500, 7,500, 7,500. And it was like, that was awesome.
So what did you learn from that one? EDU story.
One is like, look at the assets you have in your business. And another one is like build once, sell twice, and like build once, sell multiple times. And I started like doing a lot of that kind of stuff when I started doing websites. So like if I would get a website for a dentist, I would instantly just like cold email all of the dentists in that city being like, hey, we just did this website. And then they would be like, oh yeah, we've actually been wanting to do a website. And they would love the new competitor's website. And I would literally just like change the logo, change the brand colors and do that. And so, yeah, I think licensing, the idea of like looking at what your business outputs as like assets that you could potentially resell. And then also just like understanding that like demand matters more than anything. Like the fact that this demand existed, plugging in, like if I had to go out and sell each one of those videos for 7,500, it wouldn't have made sense. But the fact that there was like so much inbound and like you could just get like referrals from everybody. And it also just like told me like there's like one industry that never has price objections, and it's like government. And it was just like no one ever pushed back on price. They all had a budget to spend. And
Right.
So if I ever were to build another service-based business, which like God willing I don't have to, I would focus on a niche. Hopefully it could be sold into government.
I also feel like another learning with that is like, if you're just starting out, like just do shit and you'll find some niche somehow. You'll like plinko your way into somewhere. That's interesting. Would have never thought about that. Okay. I mean, should we go on to the degenerate dropshipping phase?
Yeah. What's funny is we both had a degenerate dropshipping phase before we ever knew each other.
I feel like anyone that like wants to try to make money online had a dropshipping phase.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me how you got into dropshipping.
So I guess like probably the classic route of like YouTube videos, like Hayden Bowles, I think was the first guy I watched. And I was kind of like, yeah, whatever. Like it obviously sounds interesting. And then I was just kind of like searching around and the advice was like, oh, do a niche where like people are passionate about it. At the time I was like playing tennis and I was like really liking tennis. So I just searched tennis and like looked on AliExpress and I came across this base that you fill up with water and then it's a tennis ball tied to an elastic cord and you can hit the tennis ball, the base will stay put, the elastic string will go back and it'll come back to you. And I'm like, this is amazing. I actually want one. So I'm like, I'm just going to order one it was $7. And I was like, I would buy this for $40. So there's a sample size. Yeah. And so like, I'm like, this just seems like a great product. Let me order it, see if it actually works and whatever. So I didn't really think about it, ordered it, comes in, fill it with water, start hitting with it. I'm like, this is actually a pretty good product. And now I actually have it in hand. I can make like my own creative with it. So went out to to the park and to the tennis. I should find some of the videos, but yeah, we just like filmed some videos on our iPhone. I did it with a friend of mine, and we put it up there and started running ads to it, and it worked. And we scaled it up.
Back in the golden age of Facebook ads.
It was amazing. I remember it was around Christmas time where it started to work, and we were in the Eaton Center, just looking for like Christmas gifts for people, and that was the first day we had a $6,000 day, and we were there. It was like our record day, and I'm like, this is gonna live forever. Like, this is amazing. I can get anything in this mall.
I remember a story that I've heard from Jake, who's like now the developer at Foreplay, that when there was like one day when like he was working or helping you guys with something, and then you just like came back just like fully dripped out in like a new jacket or something. And it was
the day. That was the same day. Yeah. Oh, it was those were the good old days. Every time that Shopify notification came, it was just.
When I hear I'll be hanging out with other people. We were at a poker game the other night, and someone had the Shopify app going off, and
jealous.
I was like, I still fucking miss that. Like,
Stripe needs a sound.
It needs a sound now, but the thing was with MRR, it's like I would want it for new customer, like new acquired customer.
They can have different.
If it was for every charge, it'd be like
too many.
All right.
What was your first?
So I was running the agency stuff, and then I had this like realization that I wanted to build a product. I was just like, fuck, like I don't want to keep doing all of these like jobs. And at the time I had done like a video project. We were actually doing some video production at the time. I had done a video project for this guy who was running a yoga wear brand. His name's Shane. And I was like, okay, I want to start doing product. I'm going to reach out to this like previous client of mine and see like what's up. And he was just like, he showed me what dropshipping was. And he was like, oh, I started this like yoga wear brand dropshipping. And I was just like, oh my God, this is like the most amazing thing I could have ever seen. And so like both of us were just like, okay, let's like start a business. And I had like a million ideas of what I wanted to do. The one that I really stuck on, so the first one we tried was a company called the Patent Office. And so at the time I was really obsessed with like reading a lot of like Leonardo da Vinci stuff and like just patents in general. And like I loved patent art and like things like, and like old technical drawings. And I had one of my good childhood friends is an engineer, and he was and we would always just like send like really cool stories back and forth. I'm like, okay, like engineers is a big market. What if we start doing prints of patents? And so like most iconic products, let's find the patent and then put them in prints. And so like, I think that one, I don't know, we made like a couple $1,000s, but like couldn't make Facebook ads work. And then and at the time we were just in this mindset of like, we're just going to keep trying things. And so very quickly we moved from the patent office when like that kind of stopped working, which like I still wish that business worked out, because I could see like I can still see such a clear path of going from patents into like other really cool like wall art. And so like from there, what we started doing is the next thing we were doing is I had a friend that he ended up hiring who was really into yoga. And then one weekend we went to a yoga festival in like Toronto, and there was like a bunch of booths of like vendors around. And the one booth that had this like massive line out in front of it was Turkish towels. And then I went up to the Turkish towel booth and I was like, wow, this is cool. It's like a towel with a bunch of actual features. Like the features of Turkish towels are like, they don't collect sand when you go to the beach. If you take a Turkish towel to the beach, you just like pick it up and like no sand will stick to it. And like they're like antimicrobial and like all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, this is like a simple product that we can like build direct response marketing around. And so we started drop shipping Turkish towels under like the brand Nomadic Fabrics. And then we slowly just started expanding the product categories from there. The next winning product we found was macrame plant hangers, like girls that like to have these like woven plant hangers. We started running those, and like that until the day that we sold the business was like our best seller. And then we got came full circle and we got into wall art, all like bohemian style, like either like younger girls or like hippie sort of middle-aged women would be about the kind of stuff that we were selling. And we scaled that business like to a couple $1 million a year, like pretty aggressively. And then it kind of like we had some Facebook page score issues, which was like a big thing that like kind of fucked up drop shippers. Yeah. We started bringing products in house, which like obviously when you start bringing products in house, you no longer have like the advantages of cash flow that drop shipping has. And so we just ran into a bunch of issues. We ended up building like a whole distribution system out actually in China. So like prints were getting printed in China, framed in China, and then just sent directly to, it was drop shipping, but like we actually like, we were like this
Agent.
supplier's 90% of their business.
Yeah.
And so we went out and met them, and that was really cool. And then when stuff started going south is like when I really like learned like the biggest lesson. It was just like only build companies if you like either really like the product or really like the customer, or like are intrigued by the problem to solve. Like we kind of fell into this by just testing products, and then we were just like, we're going to build a bohemian home decor company, which I can't think of anything I would want to do less like from like who I am as a person. Like I like that style, but like I would never like, I don't know, like, you know, like sitting down at, and so when stuff started getting hard, I just like, I didn't have the motivation or grit or like curiosity to see it through. Like, it's like, I started to hate and resent the business. And then we ended up just like fire selling the business for like barely any money.
Right.
We sold it to some like print on demand company who like they were actually doing, and so they were just going to use our app as our website as like distribution. And then what's cool is like that was really what's got me into like the whole digital marketing ecosystem and world and ads, and sort of obsessing about that, and like that led into the next thing. But that was like a fun one.
It's funny how there's things that stick different. Like I was doing all the same like Facebook ads and stuff, but like it's just like for me it like didn't stick. I didn't like fall in love with like the world of like digital advertising. But then like the sales stuff did. But yeah, I mean, I think you went about the dropshipping thing a lot more like high quality than we did. Like I was like throwing up a new store every week.
To be fair, I think that was part of like the demise. Like if I had just obsessed about dropshipping and finding good products, but like I also like, I always just wanted a brand.
Right.
So I was kind of like trying to fit the square peg of, you know, dropshipping into a round hole of a brand, and like those things, and like people do it successfully. Like a lot of people do it. And I think it's a good approach. But at some point you have to be able to identify where there's friction between two ideologies and like go all in on one or go all in on the other.
Right.
By the end, we were like selling like $1,000 rugs and things like that. And so it's like when you're also, and like those were coming from like amazing suppliers, but when you're also selling like random plant hangers. At one point we were like selling out of plant hangers and we couldn't get more, and they're all sold out on AliExpress, like probably because of us. And so what we ended up doing, we ended up ordering we found them on Amazon, and then we ordered them all from Amazon. They all got shipped to my condo, like literally like boxes and boxes and boxes of like thousands of plant hangers from Amazon. And then we would just take them out of the Amazon packaging. We bought like manila envelopes with like Nomadic Fabric stickers on them, and just like put them in that.
That's hilarious, because we did the exact same thing, but around Christmas.
Yeah.
Because it was like, if you ordered in December, no chance you're getting it in time for Christmas if it's coming from China. So the orders right leading up to Christmas we get for Amazon, instead of $7, it was like $11. But we were like, fuck it, just put their address in. Right. So we were just on Amazon typing the customer's address. Like I had like 100 saved addresses in my Amazon account.
Directly from Amazon. Yeah. So for me, this is where I was like, okay, I want a brand. So I'm like, I'm going to ship them all to my house and then repackage them. And then it's incredibly hard to ship things from Canada in like a economical way. And so what we did, we used this company called Chit Chats, which actually, I don't know if you've heard of Chit Chats. It's a pretty cool business, but like you drop them off at Chit Chats. They have a truck that drives from Canada over the border to the US and then ships them using US postage, so it's cheaper to like do that. It's cheaper to ship them to over the border and then ship them from whatever than shipping from your destination, which is kind of crazy.
Okay, so my next winning product was Picto Ball. This one's hilarious. Do you remember those products that was just like a crystal ball for photography? Yeah. And you just take a photo and it kind of like inverses it and creates like a cool effect. Okay, so that one was called Lens Ball. So we're like, oh, this Lens Ball product looks sick. We can get it on AliExpress. So we're on the Lens Ball site. This was the most shady business operation ever. Do you want to know what our website domain was? They were lensball.com.
You were
thelensball.com.
Wow. Same
Same logo, but we added the in a slightly different font by accident.
Yeah.
And And so we're the lensball.com. We're operating. It's crushing it. Like it was a winning product right away. We're like, oh, great. Then we get a cease and desist,
Right.
which comes through Shopify. And Shopify is like, we're just going to shut your site down if you don't comply in 48 hours. So we're like, okay, we need a new name and we need a new site. So we rename, we find like customer images rather than like the actual images from the site. And we renamed to Pictoball, and we ran that and just kind of changed the copy.
How much
and
money did Pictoball make?
It did pretty well. I think it was doing around like 3 or 4K a day,
Okay.
like range, and like, but also like kind of short lived. It just like eventually stopped working. So constantly on that treadmill trying to make it work. But yeah, it's like so funny because it's just like something I would never do now. And it's just like before it was like, yeah, lens ball, the lens ball. Like,
Yeah.
you know, so that was the next one.
I had like a couple. I'm gonna rapid fire through the rest of my like drop shipping
Okay.
/ e-commerce things. So I had one called Pearl Brush. So there was this like automatic toothbrush for a while. That was like a winning product. We did that. That didn't really go anywhere. And then the one that I actually still believe could be like a really big company was this one called Capture Cam, which is like actually another one that we sold, but it was kind of like not pre-revenue, but like barely any revenue because we couldn't make ads work for this. But I actually think that ads weren't the play for this. It was like partnerships. And so the idea was at the time I had a friend who was like working for me on Nomadic Fabrics, and she was into photography, and we actually knew each other from high school, and we were both just like into disposable cameras. Like we would buy disposable cameras when we would go on trips together, and we just really liked it as a product. Like we liked disposable cameras, but we were like, they all kind of look like lame. Like they're these like weird like early 2000s graphics, like green and blue, like swooshes all over them. Like what if we just make disposable cameras just like look cool and just like come up with cool skins? And so we had like avocado design stuff was a big. So we had like a cute little avocado design. We had these like ocean designs, like and we had these like beautiful renderings, this beautiful like website and all this kind of stuff. And it was hard for us to find actually like a film manufacturer. Like it was easy to find the cameras, but then like film is kind of like owned by like Kodak and like some of these companies. It's like hard to find like a source manufacturer for film. And then we also started reaching out to like large Instagram influencers that had this kind of like film aesthetic, and we would do like custom skins for them based on like their theme. And this was when like, do you remember when you'd go to someone's Instagram account and it was like
all blue or
it was like a very like, you know, like themed whatever. And so it was actually like really cool. Like we could actually create these skins that actually looked amazing, that like fully fit with their like blue and orange theme or whatever it was. And I actually think if you were to scale that up, it would work. And I've now seen a bunch of products since then. So last year, a winning product around Christmas was this like digital disposable camera that looked kind of cool. And then there's another one now that is doing the design thing, but you just put an SD card into it and it gives you the disposable camera look, but they're doing like the skins thing, which is cool. And then actually the year that we like sold it off to someone, like the whole, like all of Christmas, they were doing like cool design disposable cameras at Urban Outfitters. And we were like, fuck. And they were Urban Outfitters like branded, like it was like they're one of their internal products. And so I actually think that one could have been good. You would have had like some repeat purchase rate if you found people that love disposable cameras and things like that. I still would love to like build that business, honestly.
Yeah, that's cool.
Because you could also get into the film developing. Like you could do like a full circle thing. Like literally, like we mail you the disposable camera, we give you the envelope to mail the film back, and then we send you the digitals. You can choose the print in like the thing. Like right now, there actually isn't, like you have to go to like your local film, or you have to go to like a separate film development website to like mail in your film.
I actually saw there's a bar in Scottsdale that has vending machines with
disposable cameras,
and that's what they do. You mail it to them, but
could have been something.
Yeah,
like everything.
like everything. Okay, I'm gonna skip over to some of the rest of mine, but I'm gonna talk about the biggest dropshipping scam.
Okay,
which is the collection of all the dropshipping scams boiled into one mega dropshipping scam called Daily Deal Club.
Okay,
so we had all these failed and winning products, and we had an email list of, I don't remember what the number was, but over 100,000 people now that have bought across all these garbage sites we've thrown up. And so we're like, well, if those ads worked for them, then like surely they'll love Daily Deal Club. Right. So we take all these emails and we put them into an email marketing tool, and it was like, hey, like, thanks for signing up for Daily Deal Club, which they did not. In this email, we source out like
The
the best deals on the internet from anywhere. And so what we would do is do 2 deals from us, and then a third one we'd like actually find a good deal somewhere.
Okay.
And so our first one, I don't remember what they all were, but it was like a watch, and it was literally an AliExpress $4 watch. Like, it actually looked nice. And we were like, we called it the like GMT Geneva, like something. And it was like GMT Geneva, retail price like $8,995. Today's price like $49.95, 99% off. And some of these people would buy them. No, it didn't crush, but like we'd get like 8 purchases per email. But I mean, that's terrible when you're sending it to like 200,000 people.
Right.
And then it would just drop ship them that. I mean, I still feel bad about it, but like, come on, Daily Deal Club, you didn't sign up.
What do they call? There's a term for that for dropship. General store. That's what it's called, a general store.
But we didn't want to look like it's the Daily Deal Club site, so we quickly throw up a new Shopify site just for this.
We'd make so like Daily
a watch
Deal Club
store.
Was just like a
We're
newsletter.
A third party. We got nothing to do with GMT Geneva.
Damn.
It wasn't worth all the work for like 8 sales of $40. But yeah, that's why we stopped eventually.
Okay. I think the only other dropshipping thing I had an idea while we were doing Nomadic Fabrics. It was like I was on a plane actually. I was going to Hawaii, and I had this like realization that I fucking hated my business and I hated our customers. But like I do like
I hate our customers.
I do like furniture. Like I always send you furniture. I'm like, buy this chair. Like Emco chairs. Like, you know, I do like furniture. I like designing spaces. And so I had this idea for a brand called like Monochrome Home, where the whole idea would be like we build collections. And I also like the idea of monochrome, just like generally as like a life motto in terms of like designing spaces. And so I was like, okay, I could build this like home decor store. I already understand like kind of like how to like market home decor and things like that. And so, yeah, we had this like store called Monochrome Home where we would like curate collections of AliExpress products based on like a Pantone. And so like, it actually was like I still like, there's another one where like, if I had all the time in the world, all the money in the world, like I would love to actually like do this and like get like a bunch of product designers in-house and like actually design collections. And what's funny is like Staples, which is like our office depot in Canada, they released like a bunch of product collections with one of like the Shark Tank guys, and his like gray, and he has like all of his like desk accessories in this like very specific Pantone of gray, or like subsets of gray, where like if you just buy all of these notebooks and water bottles and mugs, it just like makes whatever space you're in look good. Oh fuck, there's another one I'm gonna say. So when for Nomadic Fabrics, when prints were working really well, I was like, I like prints, like, but I also hate these lame prints of like cactuses that we're selling to these women. And I was like, I do like art. And so we started reaching out to a bunch of Instagram photographers to then sell their prints. And like actually a lot of the prints in our office now are still like old. And so that was a store called Wallpaper. But it was like misspelled, like P-A-P-R or something.
That's how you spell paper. P-A. Oh, P-A-P-R.
E-R. We dropped the E.
Oh, you dropped the E.
Yeah, I had a call with what's his name from the Facebook story, Sean whatever.
Papper.
Yeah, Papper. That was a fun one too, but it was just, again, it was exhausting myself at like so many. Like I had this business that was working, and I was like starting to take my time away from it because I didn't like it, and then like the reason why it failed is because I was taking time away from it to like do these other things, and like even those new things didn't have the attention because I was still trying to like juggle like this failing business or like succeed, whatever. Focus.
So this is back to your earlier thing, because this just came into my mind. How far apart were you doing male stripper apps with your own high school's educational videos and hospitals?
At the same time.
At the same time?
At the same time.
That's amazing.
Yeah, within months.
You're like, I gotta get done this male stripper app, and I gotta create my high school.
Well, believe it or not, we didn't put the male stripper app on our portfolio.
Oh,
but also like I spun out EDU Story as its own business. Yeah,
you need like stripper story or something.
Stripper,
you found a niche,
dude. There might have been like those like apps, like like the salon booking apps. Like you could have maybe made like a licensing kind of thing for this niche of traveling male strippers.
I didn't even know, like, it's one of those things you know of, but it's like, do those actually exist? Like,
dude, they exist. And these guys make cash.
You want to get into it?
I need to get in better shape. What else do you have?
Guest Log was an app during COVID in Canada. There was contact tracing. So any restaurant had to log the names, phone numbers, and time in, time out of every single guest that came in their restaurant. And I went to a restaurant during this and they were doing it by paper. And I'm like, this is insane. And they're like, oh, just let us know when you're coming out so we can like write that time when you left. So if something happens, we can go through and call every single one of these.
Right.
So the app was pretty simple. It was a QR code that you'd scan, and it's just a simple form with your name and your phone number. We found out the time that you leave is not actually necessary. It's the time that you get in, and then you can apply like a 3-hour maximum. So it was that. I also had the idea that, hey, like a lot of people aren't that familiar with QR codes, like older people. Or if you don't have data. So we set up like a phone number where you could just text this phone number your name, and then based on the time the text came in, it would know the time, the body of the text is your name. And each restaurant had a different generated phone number. So then it knew which restaurant you were at. So it was a, obviously just like a kind of
Was it SaaS?
cool
Like
solution.
you sold
Yeah, it
them
was a
monthly?
SaaS. It was you got free up to like 100 guests, I think, something like that per month. Like you basically had to pay $50 a month for the subscription. And that gave you like the phone number feature and stuff like that. It would, when you created an account, it would like generate this nice PDF that you could just print out or laminate that like showed like, hey, scan this, and it had all the instructions, as well as like a table card one that you could fold. Like it was actually pretty cool and just like a really simple, nice fix to the solution to the issue. I think we got to like around 10K MRR pretty quick. The way we did it was kind of interesting. So what we did is we found like all restaurants in Toronto, cold email them. Then I printed out a bunch of like guest log pieces of paper saying this is kind of like what we do, and just actually like threw them inside of like restaurants through the doors. And then we cold emailed like BlogTO and some of these other publications, and BlogTO actually wrote about us. We got like 300 signups that day. We got like big restaurant chains like Joey's and stuff like that pretty quick. Obviously, I was like, COVID's ultimately going to end. So we sold it for like a less than 6 figures amount. I guess that would be 5 figures. And yeah, but it was a fun, like little thing to do. I mean, ultimately it's like, what I learned from that is like, why are you working on something that you know is going to end?
Right.
It just felt so like at the time, like something that should exist. So I
still have a bunch of domain names that I bought about COVID testing.
Oh, really?
So I wanted to do COVID testing because I was at the time. So during COVID for me, I was like, I'm fucking out of here. And so I was traveling like a ton during COVID, and I had realized that I had spent like $4,000 on COVID testing in like 6 months or something crazy. And so I'm like, okay, this is, and it was like kind of dominated. And I was like, okay, like maybe this could even be like an affiliate kind of thing where like if I could just like rank SEO like on some of these like websites, and then just like be an affiliate for like the service providers. And so I have like 5 or 10 domain names, like your COVID test, like OntarioCOVIDtest.com, mycoronatest.com. So if anyone wants to buy those,
I don't know
if they're
about
going to bring COVID
bring back COVID so you can sell those.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Man, this is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
Going through this all.
There's a lot, and I feel like we both have so many things like we didn't touch on, but like
there's a million other like little random fucking things that I tried, but these are the ones that like when I had to like quickly write down a list, this is what
stood
I got.
out. Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
That's all our failures, or I guess some of them are like not failures, but
Yeah, it all worked out.
all works out in the end. All right. See you guys next week.